Welcome to Workday Now for Financial Planning. This is just one in a series of 30-minute videos that explore Workday's single platform of business applications and how it allows organizations to analyze, plan, and execute business transactions. My name is Stephen Dabrowski, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. Workday's technology starts with a single platform, but this power of one also includes one source of data, one security model, one experience, and one community for all of our customers. And this is different by design and was created for how organizations perform their work in today's environment. It's the modern technology architecture that creates the strong foundation that all of Workday is built upon. Now, in a fast changing world, organizations need to be able to analyze, plan, and execute faster and in a more continuous fashion. And by having financial and HCM transactions along with planning and analytics on the same platform, Workday gives its customers a truly unique experience that eliminates inefficiencies and promotes better and more effective decision making. Now, in this session, we're going to focus on the planning aspect of this experience. Specifically, we'll be looking at the financial planning process, but please also visit the workforce planning video at workday.com as well. Now, there are many challenges that face companies when planning, but there are three we hear time and again from FP&A and industry leaders. The first is that organizations believe participation is too limited. Now, this may be caused by software licensing, data security, or simply the availability of information. But organizations want more people to participate in order to get better and more relevant business results. The second is the gap between the plans and the current business conditions. As things change, plans become outdated and don't always reflect the environment the organization is facing. And this can create bad decision making because business units may be focusing on the wrong goals. And lastly is the entire planning process is hindered by inflexible systems, pre-built configurations that don't resemble the current organization and may have to be extended by Excel or solely rely on spreadsheets to execute the planning process. It's that inflexibility that's primarily causing the need to maintain these different systems. So plans, structure, data, transactions, and security are in separate systems, and they need to be extracted and transformed in order to establish a new plan or conduct a planning process. And this becomes more complicated if changes occur while the planning process is going on to an organization structure, employees, or even just market conditions. And the time it takes to perform these ETL processes makes the process more efficient and risky that security will be compromised due to changes. Now, Workday not only provides a single platform to eliminate the need for the data in the ETL process, but also puts in place a single security model, business controls, and 100% auditability of all the transactions, which leads to a more efficient and timely planning process. So now let's take a look at the planning components within Workday. In this demonstration, we're going to look through it from the starting point of the eyes of the plan administrator. And the first is to be able to create plan structures, leveraging Workday's multidimensional structure. They then can generate baseline plans from previous data or create updated forecasts using an automated generator. We'll spend most of our time exploring the workbooks, which are created by the administrator for plan participants where they can collaborate, work in a familiar environment, utilize pre-built templates, or build new driver-based plans, all while having the ability to interact with the data real time. We'll show you how the business process can be controlled and monitored, and of course, viewing the results from Workday's powerful reporting environment. So let's get started. Here we're looking at a planning worklet. This is a place where all of the work for planners or administrators can be organized. And we see we have reports, tasks, things even related just to our annual planning process along with other dashboards. On the left, you see an example of a report that compares the actuals, the updated forecast, variances along with analytic indicators, as well as comparing this against a baseline and a new fully annualized forecasted budget. On the right-hand side, we can see we have reports and tasks organized into customizable, configurable areas where workers can execute their tasks related to planning in these cases. As we scroll down, we can see dashboards that are also created for users based on how they might want to look at the plans. So we can see things like revenue attainment. So we might want to compare actuals versus budget on revenue. And users from graphs have the ability to drill into those details and look at the dimensions within Workday that'll allow them to drill further or analyze that information in a more granular manner. Another example, cost centers and budgets. So maybe wanting to compare by cost center how we're performing against budgets. And all of this information is going to be filtered using Workday's security model. So the users are only going to get the information that they need without having IT to produce multiple reports in order to affect this. Acting as the plan administrator, let's start with the basic building blocks of the plan. And the first thing that the administrator would do is build a plan structure. In the plan structure, the planner has the ability to choose the type of plan, financial or headcount, but also choose the schedule. Do they want to do it by period, month or quarter, or a duration of over longer than a year? By choosing dimensions, though, the planner can actually look at individual dimensions within Workday and concentrate the plan on the areas that they want to focus on. So you can see as we scroll down here, they have the ability to choose companies, include or exclude various companies for this plan. Of course, ledger accounts can be selected, but we can look at cost centers and only choose a specific hierarchy or various cost centers that we're concentrating on. And you can see that we have the ability to be as granular as we would like by choosing division, region, revenue categories, etc. And all of these have the ability for the planner to be very granular in their choosing. You can see if we select a new item that the planner has the ability to choose from all the various dimensions that are available within Workday for them to concentrate their planning on. The next step for the plan administrator is to build on that plan structure by creating a baseline plan. In this baseline plan, the plan administrator has the flexibility to choose which companies they're going to generate a plan for, but also the flexibility to choose a source and a target. Now on the source side, the administrator can choose between using prior plan or actuals or a combination, choose a year, and even which plan the information would come from, and then ultimately target a new plan or update an existing plan and just replace information across it to update a forecast. Now, all of this can happen within a multi-currency environment, and the administrator has the ability to choose over which periods from the plan or actuals that are going to be updated. Now, that source data can also then have assumptions applied to it. And these assumptions or plan treatment rules allow the administrator to make some global assumptions. And in our example here, we're updating revenue and we're going to adjust it by 10%, but the administrator can choose which periods and also be very granular by choosing various dimensions within Workday that allow the administrator to isolate these changes at a very low level. And they can do so for cost of goods, commissions, other expenses as well, having full flexibility before the baseline is created of making these adjustments. Now, the last of the building blocks for the plan administrator after the baseline is created is to create the worksheet templates. This is where the planners are actually going to do their work. And the administrator has the ability not only to define what data or information or input is going to be in that workbook, but also how they're going to distribute it across the organization. Now, in this plan template, the administrator has the ability to start with a baseline workbook. So they can take information that they already want to build off of and then not only seed it with the data that would be coming from the generator or that baseline plan, but also other information that could be used for drivers or for context while creating the plan. And you can see along the left-hand side, we have tabs that will be created in the worksheet for things like instructions, current workforce, where we can bring in the current workforce plan and salary information, open job recs, etc. And all of these tabs will correspond to input screens or things that the individual planners are going to utilize while they're conducting their planning process. This is all going to be distributed by choice. The administrator has the ability to select one or multiple workbooks or spread them across supervisory orgs like cost centers or other organizations. Now we'll explore the worksheets further now, but we're going to do so from two sets of eyes. That from the plan administrator or manager, as well as the individual planner who's only going to be working with an individual slice of the plan. Now from the administrator or manager standpoint, they may be viewing an updated forecast, for instance, where we're comparing actuals versus forecast alongside at the same time that we're participating in building our annual budget. Now we can see from our sales and marketing that we're not necessarily making our revenue number at this point. Now the administrator can drill into these details and start to explore these by dimension, look at the customers or the individuals that are affecting that. But they know from a previous conversation that our short fall here in revenue is primarily to do with the fact that we don't have enough salespeople on board. And we're going to ask one of our planners who's responsible for sales and marketing to try to do some things in their annual plan to take action on these things. Before we do that though, we want to give them some context and we're going to look at the salaries and benefits. One of the powers of this reporting is that we can actually drill on the variances as well. So in salaries where it looks like in a current state we have a favorable outcome but an unfavorable potential outcome for the full year. And so we want to get a little more context and drill into this detail. And we could drill into this by cost center, for instance. So one of the dimensions that we can utilize for planning. And by doing this, we're able to see that what looked like a slight variance tells a different story as we uncover the details. And here we can see that our sales management, the actuals, are quite high over budget while we are substantially under for that field sales group. And we could drill into this data further and look at it by various dimensions all the way down to things like the worker to see where those variances are really coming from. But we're going to take a step in a different direction on this, and we're going to use this information as context for how we're going to collaborate. As the plan administrator, let's explore this from the standpoint of the business process framework and talk about how we would collaborate with our planners. As the administrator, when the plan generator is completed and the worksheets are distributed, the administrator is going to get an overall view of the plan to see where the status is. We can see how many of the plans are awaiting action, what's been submitted and or sent back to individuals. And we can explore this from a hierarchy as well. So we can see in our sales and marketing budget, we can see how many plans each individual leader is responsible for, and even drill into the details all the way down to the individual planners. This also gives us the ability to inspect or evaluate and look at their individual workbooks as well. Our plan administrator has opened the workbook of an individual planner, in this case, Angela Bianchi, who's responsible for sales. The spreadsheet-like experience you see was done by design. This is not a Google Doc. This is not an Excel document embedded, but this is a worksheet that lives within the Workday environment and platform. Now, across the top, you see the features that are common for users and familiar: formatting, charting, functions, etc. But across the bottom, we see the tabs that were created by the plan administrator in the plan template. So this contains Angela's slice of the plan, as well as the information that has already been filtered by the Workday security model to give her her current workforce, her job recs, etc. Let's first explore the things that are unique about this Workday workbook environment. The first is that the document is fully shareable. The creation of the plan will automatically share the document with the planner and the administrator, but other people that are relevant to the plan can be shared so that they can collaborate and just view, comment, or edit the documents. This expands that opportunity to using more people in the planning process to get more relevant details. The second is that changes in the document are always going to be tracked. So to be able to see individual field updates, what formulas have changed, what numbers have changed, and to be able to revert back to those is a powerful tool in collaborating with users. The last is that the data itself can actually be referred back to or drilled back to within Workday. So to be able to point and click to drill back to field sales organization, or if we're looking at our current workforce, that we can actually drill back to individual workers. And we'll explore the tabs below in more detail as Angela, the individual planner. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about here is the feature of collaborating with other users in real time. Now, in our scenario, our plan administrator was asking Angela to make some potential changes around workforce. Our sales managers, which were over budget, looks like we have some new hire requests with potential start dates early in the fiscal year, and we want to ask Angela to make some changes. So we can collaborate in real time by selecting a comments box. And we simply type the user's name and are able to select it from a list. The user is able to actually type their message and ask for someone to take action, making a reference even to a set of cells to be very specific as to where they want them to focus on the particular worksheet. Now, once this is posted, this is then going to send a notification to the user. We'll now look at things through the eyes of the planner. Logged in as Angela, the head of sales, we can now drill into some of the details through collaboration or the business process control via the inbox for the planning environment. Let's start and take a look at the notifications, where we can see the comment posted by Teresa, not only asking her a question, but with the ability for her to drill and open up her workbook right from this standpoint. We'll look at this from the inbox because, again, as a participant in the plan, the business process has sent Angela her slice of that individual plan. From here, she can update or submit her plan, but we'll go ahead and just open up the plan workbook. You can see from here, we're in the exact same workbook that Teresa was viewing from her administrator plan view. If we were to select on the comments, we can see Teresa's comment as well as the reference for us to drill right back to the selection that she had made for us. We would be able to go there, take action on this particular plan. Let's start though, and we'll walk through the different tabs of this planning environment and show examples of the input screens and how planners can work with contextual information to make their plans better. The first page illustrates instructions, tells the planners how to use the spreadsheet, what's changed from the last plan, and how we want them to interact maybe differently with. The next tab, which was defined in our template, is the current workforce. This is where Workday is bringing into the plan contextual data. So our individual workers, what their levels, positions, and salaries are, as well as the ability for the user to interact and possibly change if an employee was transferring and project an end date, and have all of this information summarized for salary expenses, which is typically the single largest line item in any individual plan. The next piece of contextual information that was brought into this particular plan were open job recs. Now, this could also flow from a separate plan in workforce planning where this information would be delivered from those plans and those plan documents. You can see we have the ability for users to potentially change hire dates and or add comments to this particular field. All of the salary information is being calculated off of drivers based on salary, hire dates, and assumptions about taxes and benefits, etc. There's also the new hire requests where Teresa asked us to potentially make a change. In this case, we have sales managers, and the planner can push this information out, push these folks back into the third quarter of the preceding year. And this will push all of the costs further out into the future. You see, as we scroll to the right, our salary expenses updated based on our changes on this particular plan. Now, when Angela updates her plan, that change will be immediately reflected in the plan documents and aggregated so that the plan administrator can see that we're going to make an attempt to improve our overages on salaries for regional managers. Now, in addition, template also brought in useful things like depreciation from existing assets. Again, being able to drill into the individual assets if we wanted. An example of CapEx requests, so modeling what additional fixed assets might be needed for our growth strategies, allowing the user to input amounts and dates, and letting the system calculate depreciation based on the profiles that we've brought into the plan. Then there's the meat of it, the OPEX plan. Now this sheet, which was constructed by the plan administrator and included in the template, gives us examples of how plans can be built with one or multiple different planning methods all being included in the same area. On the left, we see that we have things summarized by ledger account and spend category, the categories that we want to track or summarize or aggregate our information. Again, those are the dimensions that we chose in the plan structure. From here, we can see that we're allowing different planning methods. The top of our screen are salaries information. Those numbers are being generated by the supporting tabs. You can see the cell references here refer back to those particular areas. But then we have other calculations which are built upon those various calculations. Notice the numbers are grayed out, that our planner could not change these assumptions or change those references. Those are going to be driven by the plan administrator. We also have examples here of how other plan methods would be supported. In this example, we can choose from different items. Manual entry, where we simply want to input the information, using the information from prior year or actual that was generated by the plan generator, using breakback for spreading amounts across a period of time, or just using averages or other calculations. As we scroll to the right, we see that we have a summarized view of the total expenses, but have also included an input zone to change data on our own. This is a place built by the administrator where users can simply start to change or add information manually. Now, Angela's already made one change to the plan by pushing out the start dates of new managers. But she also had open job recs for sales individuals that she would need to help support. And to help build pipeline and ultimately build sales, one of the things she could do is consider increasing the total advertising spending that she would be able to support those new sales reps with. So in this case, she's simply going to change our information and add $20,000 in January as all of those new reps come on. Give them some fuel to help build their pipeline. The administrator's also given Angela the ability to view a summary so she can see her changes and her plans immediately, and even give her a graphical representation of those plans with the ability to drill into those data elements as well, or those data dimensions. Now, one last thing that Angela would like to do before submitting her plan, since she was working with Pipeline, is to look at some additional external information that would be available through Workday Prism or other ways through integrations that she can use to add context. So she'll go ahead and add live data and there are a list of reports that have been shared with her that she can use now to bring into her planning environment. Our example is going to be CRM data that would come about her sales individuals, and she's able to select information and insert it into her plan either as values or as live data. Now, as this information comes in as live data, all of our reference to cost centers and workers are still here, and she can go ahead and start to summarize this information or build out other things on formulas from the functions library that exists. These function libraries allow the user to build calculations and complex calculations just like they would in Excel. So let's think about where we've been in the process. Back as the plan administrator who built a plan structure, generated a baseline plan, and created templates, and then distributed those templates to various users. And while working alongside with an annual budget and a forecast, was able to analyze information, collaborate with the user, ask them to make changes, and then is back in a situation where they can view and or look at information for their particular plans and see the updates occurring. So again, from the hierarchical view, we can see that we've had more plans submitted, and if we were to drill back down to Angela, we could see that her plan is now submitted status. So our plan administrator now wants to look at how the aggregate plan is coming together. And from her worklet, she can do this by having a report accessible that would aggregate all of the plan information together. Here she can see the dimensions and summaries by ledger account across the cost centers that were part of the plan. Now, we were working with the field sales organization, and we can see all of the numbers aggregated. If we were to drill into the marketing information, we can select this and look at all the details and information that's been submitted from the various plans. If we were to scroll down, we actually will see the $20,000 adjustment that we made to advertising expense. And this information is all there for the planner to drill and analyze and also view real time as the planners are updating information. Now, finally, from here, she can actually transfer this information into that same worksheet environment if she wanted to collaborate with her senior executives on what the status of the plan was and any changes that are being made. Now, Teresa can view this information by going to her drive in Workday, where she can see all of her files that are shared with her, plans that she's working on, and information that she's created. She can even drag and drop Excel files right into the environment, and they'll be converted for her automatically so she doesn't have to recreate them in the worksheet environment. And here she's free to view the information in the workbook and start to share and collaborate with this with other people in the organization. That concludes our demonstration of Workday's financial planning. To summarize how Workday solves some of the common challenges facing enterprises today, we'll look back to the challenges we talked about earlier. By providing a collaborative, easy environment, participation across the organization is enabled. It allows more people to participate in the planning process, making it more effective. The gap between plan and action is closed when users can analyze, plan, and execute in the same system and be provided the contextual information that they need to make decisions, whether that data is part of Workday or external to Workday. Finally, is breaking past the inflexibility of systems today with the power of one, a single platform for human capital management, finance and accounting, analytics, and planning. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and please explore the other functional videos as part of your Workday journey.